Hello out there. Let's see. Let me get this brought down. I don't know if anything is going to go live. Okay, we should be going live now any second if we're not already. So, hey everybody, I think we're live now on YouTube. Welcome all of my followers and supporters of HomeRecordingMadeEasy.com. I'm doing this live broadcast here because most of the people that follow me, at least a good portion of you, are all Studio One users, and some of you are all StudioLive Series 3 Mixer users. And today, if you don't know yet, is the public beta release for the DAW control for the StudioLive 32 to Studio One. And as you can see on the screen, I have Studio One down here and I have my StudioLive up here in the right-hand corner. And I'm in a little picture in the top left-hand corner, and Johnny Lipsham is here. Let me see if I can get a hold of Johnny Boy here. Hold on. We're doing this on the fly, but I got this to work with a good friend of mine from Facebook, Tom Scott, and his sweet, darling wife, Heather. Figured out what was going on here with Mac users, and I want to walk you all through that. So Johnny Lipsham, hold on a second, buddy. Let me see if I can get you in here. And Johnny Geib, too, thanks for helping me. Johnny Geib was helping me on the messenger. Tom was calling me on the phone. I had 4 people trying to help me all at the same time, and I so appreciate everybody doing that. And Johnny Geib, if you're watching or when you watch this, thank you so much. I wasn't ignoring you in the chat, but we were cracking the code as you were trying to help me. So thank you for trying to help. Let me see if I can get Lipsham on here. We're going to try. I don't know what the hell we're going to do here, guys. But we got it figured out. Oh, what camera is that? Hold on a second here. Hello.
Hello. Hello, hello, hello.
Okay. How are you, Johnny? Okay, so I don't know. Johnny, hold on a second. Let me get you let me get you, I don't know what I'm going to do. Let me get you full screen here for a second. Okay, so Johnny Lipsham's here. Johnny, how are you, buddy?
I'm all right, mate.
Okay, so we're live
and questions.
Yeah, no, I know. And we figured out, well, actually, I didn't figure anything out. Tom Tom Scott from Facebook, I think it was Tom Scott. God, yes, it was. Was it Tom? Let me make sure I got his last name right. Guy was so nice, helped me out, and I want to share with you from Mac users what was the problem, and a couple of things we can pass back over to Presonus to help. So there's a couple of things that are going on with why I wasn't able to connect. Let me try to get this thing shrunk down a little bit. I wasn't overly prepared for this, so let me get.
That's okay. It's cool, man.
Let me get the windows where we need to get them. And Johnny Geib was trying to help too, and all at the same time. So again, thank you, Johnny. I was ignoring. I asked him for help, and then I ignored him not because I wanted to ignore him, because all these people were trying to help at the same time, and Johnny's typing away, and and by the time Johnny got to me, we had already figured it out. So let me see what I.
We were all doing the same, answering the same thing, I think, weren't we?
Everybody was, yeah, and so it was really cool. We're getting a little distortion on your voice there, Johnny, and I don't know if that's because, I don't know why that is. Maybe because internet, and we're doing all kinds of things. Okay, so I got Johnny here. I gotta get out of. I gotta mute him. I gotta minimize Skype a little here for us, and then I gotta hit this.
It's just the stream was feeding right back into my feed to you.
Yeah, I'm still getting a bunch of distortion from you, but I think that could just be an internet thing, because I had that the other night with Pete. The same thing that was happening with Pete is now happening with you.
That's not...
What happened there? Hold on. I just want to minimize this, guys. Come on, help me here. What's going on with my keyboard? Yeah, my escape key. Lordy. Oh, lordy. We'll get it. Why can't I? Oh, there it goes. All right, hold on a minute. Okay, so I'm going to minimize this. Johnny, you're in a little picture at the top of the right of Studio One. I wanted to bring Studio One on the screen. So there were a couple of things that were going on, and we also got my camera here at the StudioLive 32, which I can take off and put in front of the screen here in a second. But let me explain what I was experiencing. So I, like everybody else, went in and made sure that I had my latest version of Studio One updated, which I can tell you what the version should be on the. I think the Mac and the PC will be the same, but let me just show you. The latest version should be, at least with the Mac, should be Studio One 3.5.4. 0.45392. If I can read that, my eyes are old man, can barely see it, but it's that the build is on November 30th, 2017. So step one is I updated that. Then I went ahead and we needed to update the firmware, right? So we went out to the Presonus account, and this is one of the issues that stumped us all, Johnny. And Johnny Guybe, if you're listening, you may want to know this too if you don't already know, because you guys are PC guys. This might be just Mac specific. I don't know. So yeah, your audio is horrible, John. So hold on here. So if you go over to your My Presonus account and you log into your account, okay, and you go to your products, and hopefully you guys will be able to see this okay. Here's my StudioLive 32. I click on that, okay, and now you come down here to the firmware. Okay, so here's the first thing that threw me for a loop. Okay, the StudioLive 32 firmware. If you look down here, the version that you need to make this work on a Mac is version 1.7, which Tom figured out. Nowhere in here does it say 1.7. The latest one it shows is from November 28th, 2017, 1.613. Which I did not have on my StudioLive. Maybe because there was a few updates of firmware in the past and I had no reason to update it, so I didn't. And also be aware that you cannot update your firmware for this DAW control through the internet. You have to do it one of the ways you have to do is on the SD card. It says in the instructions that you don't want to do it through the network cable how you normally can. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is, but have no fear, this 1.6 is actually version 1.7. So I updated this. When you click update, it's going to download. It's going to download a file. It's going to bring you to this screen. It's going to say download the StudioLive 32 firmware, or you can do it down here at the bottom. It gives you a nice walkthrough instructions. So when you download this, you're going to get a zip file, which I have down here in the bottom left-hand corner of my screen. I hope you guys can all see that. Okay, you take that, you open it up, and it's an image file, I believe. I don't know the name of it, but it's an image file. Once you format your SD card, you want to make sure that it's formatted, okay? You format the SD card, and then you can just take this on a Mac, and you can just drag and drop it onto the SD card file, which I can try to show you. Do I have my thing plugged in still? No, I do not, but you can just go ahead and you can just drag it on there, so the image file is now on your SD card, okay? And then from there, you're going to want to stick it into the StudioLive 32 mixer. And I've already done this. Let me, I don't want to screw anything up because now I'm in DAW mode. If I take it out of DAW mode, let me see what happens. I haven't done anything except this, so I don't really know what I'm doing. But if you go to the home screen, let me see if I can take this camera off here, John. And we're going to do this kind of guerrilla style. There's going to be no fancy camera work, no fancy nothing. But you're going to get a camera on your screen. I'm going to try to move this so you can guys kind of see it. I'm holding it by hand. Sorry for the shakiness. Okay. You're going to come over to System. Okay. You're going to come over to Firmware up here. It's the second icon down from the top on the right-hand side. And then you're going to insert your SD card into the slot and you're going to check for updates. I don't have it in. I'm going to go ahead. I'll put the card in there just so you can see. And then you're going to go check for updates. Now you see the firmware version, it says 1.7.13343. Let me see if I can zoom in on that. I don't know if you'll be able to see it good, if my camera will do it. But the version you need, at least for the Mac, is 1.71.3343. Okay, now this image file is on my SD card, and the image file, according to the Presonus website, is version 1.6. It's not version 1.6. It's actually version 1.7. And I thought, because the first time I did this, you hit check for updates, and it's going to say you're going to see a little thing. Again, I know it's out of focus, but it's going to say right down here, an update is available from the SD card. You can say proceed or cancel. I'm going to say cancel. Now, the first time I did this exact process with the same image file, it updated. Took about 2 minutes or so, 3 minutes. It updated the firmware. There's a progress bar that comes up. It will show you that it's updating your firmware. Okay, I know the camera's shaky. I'm sorry. And what ended up happening was it loaded version 1.6, whatever it was, 352. Updated and I thought, oh, okay, I didn't have 1.6. I had 1.4, 1.5. So I updated to 1.6. Everything should be good. Went ahead, did everything else it said in the instructions as far as the way you open up Studio One, And then once you're done doing this, by the way, if you go back to the home button, you're going to hit the UC net, okay? And then you're going to get this screen. Now, what I was getting with version 1.6, you see where it says software control on top? That wasn't there. The only thing that was there was the recording device on the SD card, and that was in the top of the screen. And it was blank down here in the bottom. And I couldn't figure it out. I started pulling Cat5 wires, changing Cat5 wires, thinking something was wrong. Nothing seemed to work. The way you need to have this wired, and again, Johnny, this could be just Mac, I don't know, but Tom and his wife, Heather, by the way, figured this out because Heather is an IT specialist. Somehow between her and Tom, they figured this crazy thing out. So you have to have, obviously, the StudioLive via Cat5 to your router. And then from your router, you're going to go to your computer. You also need to have the USB cable plugged into your computer. So you need to have both those things happening. Okay?
Yep.
That's not enough, though. The other thing you have to do is you have to make sure I'm going to put this camera down for a second because this is on the screen now. I'll bring the camera back in a minute. The other thing you have to do is for the Mac, again, it could be just Mac, but Tom thinks it's for both. You also need to make sure that you have your Wi-Fi turned on. Even if you're hardwired in your Mac or your PC, you also have to have the Wi-Fi on, and you got to connect to your network. And here's my Vignola network. That's my last name. You all know that. My Wi-Fi is now connected. I never used to have my Wi-Fi on because I always just go everything hardwire. But in order to do this, at least that's what we think. There may be a workaround, but this is how I got it to work. The Wi-Fi's got to be connected to the network. You also have to have the hardwire plugged into your router and then into your computer. And then you also have to have the USB cable plugged in. And when you have those three magic things all working together, along with version 1.7, let me just give you that number again. It's version, let me just look at it one more time. It's 1.73 something or another. It instantly works like this. As soon as I had 1.7 in and I went to the UC net, I got this screen. Let me show it to you again. Again, I know this is a shaky camera. I had the screen where I have the Studio One software control. And when you do the drop-down arrow, it says Studio One. You may not be able to read that too well. Studio One, David Vignola's Mac Pro. And then you just touch that. As soon as I did that, I hit the DAW button. And if I hit the DAW button, let me put my camera back, you'll see what happens because I took it out of DAW mode a minute ago. Let me see. Let me turn up my camera here. So as soon as I hit the little green button that says DAW, all the faders lock in to the session. And then if I go to the session, let me just minimize the screen here. Let me go to my song that I had open. Now everything moves. If I take channel 1, you could probably see in the top right-hand corner of my screen, and I move channel 1 on the StudioLive, you can see channel 1 on the DAW moves, the kick track. Okay? All the scribble strips line up. Everything works the way it's supposed to. So that's the trick. So when you download that 1.6 firmware from your Presonus account, at least in my account, maybe your account's different, I don't know. That image isn't really 1.6, it's 1.7. Now, what I forgot to mention, I got sidetracked. The first time I did this exact process and I uploaded the file via the SD card to the StudioLive and it took it. Remember I said it went from like 1.4, whatever I had on it before, to 1.6. It matched what it said in my Presonus account as far as the versions were. When I did it the second time with the same exact file, because Tom says, no, do it again. He walked me through it, and I did the same exact thing. When I loaded it the second time, it went from 1.6 to 1.7. Don't ask me why. That's probably a Johnny Lipsham IT kind of a funny question thing that I have no clue why that would do that. That I don't know if that's a hiccup that these guys can help correct, or if that's normal and I'm just ignorant. It could be the second. But if you don't know that, you're going to be pulling your hair out thinking you're not going to know why the StudioLive is not communicating with Studio One. It's because you don't have the right firmware version. You have to have 1.7. Okay?
Yes.
Once you do that, everything seems to work. If I take off my camera again, and when I do this, I'm really sorry about that. I wasn't prepared to do this multiple camera thing. We'll get better at this, Johnny, I promise.
Oh, we will.
We're holding it by hand. I'm sorry, guys. But hopefully this will help people. When you're in DAW mode, instantly, let's say I take, I'm on track 13. I hit the select button on my console, and it brings up on the screen, as you can see, my inserts. It has my UV meter, which I had already in there. And it also has a Waves plugin, a CLA LA2A plugin on it. So if I were to touch, I can bring those up, even the third-party plugin. Let me bring it to my screen.
Yes.
And there it is. Oh, you could see it on the screen share. So when I touch it on the screen and I get rid of it, if I want to get rid of it, it goes away. Really cool. Not just with a Presonus plugin, but also with a third-party plugin, at least a Waves plugin. Let's try
It does it with Slate as well.
Okay, let's try it with Universal Audio, because you know that's my favorite plugins, except for Presonus plugins, of course. So let's,
Yes.
right, John, of course. So let's just take a UA channel strip and let's drop that on channel 13 and see what happens. Okay, now if it shows up on the touch screen, as you can see, hopefully. Okay, so now if I touch this, will it go away? It sure does. So it works with well, at least Slate, Waves, and Universal Audio. It works with those three manufacturers. My guess is it would work with all of them. At least those are the three main ones that I use. Okay, so that's pretty cool. So that's as far, Johnny, as I've gotten. I'm going to put my camera back here for a second. That's as far as I've got as far as getting this thing at least working now. And it does work. Now the other thing will be interesting. I'll have to play with this a bit. So if that's all you needed to know, you could stop watching this video right now. 1.7 firmware. Make sure you have your Wi-Fi connection turned on and it's connected to your network, as well as the hardwire into your router, and then from your router to your computer, or directly from your router to your computer if you don't have like a hub or whatever. You have and USB. Okay, so those are the four things you got to have to make this work. And if you download that 1.6 version and you load it the first time and it doesn't load it again, because that's what I had to do. I had to load it twice. The other thing,
If you're sorry, Dave.
Yeah, go
if
ahead.
you are several, I don't know if you can still hear me or not.
Yes.
If you are several firmwares out of date, like if you've not updated the firmware for a wee while, then what can happen is when you update a firmware, it can sometimes initially update to the next one in its logical sequence before it, and that's why you had to do it a second time. The second time it will go, oh, hang on a minute, there's something a lot newer, so it will do that.
Right. So it could just be that I was a couple of versions out of the chain, and that may have been the reason. I don't know. When I spoke with Tom, he had the same exact problem, and he coached me through it. And I didn't ask him. And Tom, I know Tom is probably watching. I don't know what version you had on your StudioLive firmware wise before you went to the 1.7. Were you already at a 1.6, or were you like 1.4, 1.5, something like me? And I can't see the chat, so I don't know, Johnny, if you're monitoring the chat.
Yeah, Tom's here.
Okay, and again, thank you so much. I mean, I got to give props to Tom. Tom, I owe Tom for sure. Him and his wife Heather. His wife is an IT person, and he got her out of work at lunchtime and dragged her home just to get this thing figured out, because he struggled with it too. And between his wife,
Tom was on.
Yeah,
Tom 1.5, I think.
Okay, so he may have been it too. If he was on 1.5 and I was on 1.5 and you weren't on 1.6 already, maybe that was the issue. I don't know. And again, I don't know if that's a PC and a Mac thing or just a Mac thing, but I wanted to share it with everybody because I was pulling my hair out. And again, I thank everyone for trying to help me. You guys were all jumping in trying to help, but we got it figured out.
The way you've described the four elements that you need to have in place in order to be able to get your StudioLive to see Studio One and your IP address, which is what it needs to connect the two together. The way you've described those four elements is exactly correct. It is in the DAW mode addendum manual, but there's a second document that Jeff posted up there as well that gives you additional instructions to get started. So really important for folks that are maybe going through the same thing, because I've seen, I think, 4 or 5 people that have basically said they can't get the mixer to see Studio One, which is what you're going through, and it's possibly one of those elements is more.
Oh, did I hang up on him? Oh, gee whiz! I meant to expand the window, not hang up on the guy. Oh, I'm sorry. Hey, that was funny. He's gonna go, what the hell are you doing, man? I didn't mean to hang up on you. I meant to expand the window, and I hung up on you.
You hung up on me.
I was
That
like,
was that.
oh, he's going to kill me for that. So now you're in the center of the screen. So when you're talking, Johnny, are you sure though? Because I think Tom and I discussed this. I do not, and I think he's saying it now. Those extra steps about the Wi-Fi are not in that addendum manual.
We're kind of I'm backing and forthing with the guys at Presonus at the moment, some of the senior beta guys, and we're looking at issues to do with the manual. Actually, so I think there's going to be maybe some additional stuff coming for the manual
Yeah, and
that
that's
will,
hey, you
will
know
help
that,
unpack
and
some of
that's
this.
okay. I mean, that's why they're doing a beta, a public beta.
Yep.
It's for these
Yep.
reasons because everyone has a different computer. Not everybody has the same level of computer knowledge of what needs to happen. And the great thing is that, I mean, I mean, I must have had in 15 minutes about 6 people all at the same time trying to help.
Yeah.
So there is
Yep.
help there. So we, you know, you don't learn anything unless something goes wrong, right? So when the StudioLive first came out and I first got mine delivered, there was an issue. Oh, connecting the iPad. And there was just an error. It was a one-line error in the manual. And when I worked with Ray said, "Oh, you found an error that we got in the manual," and they fixed it.
Yep.
And there's a video on my YouTube channel showing you that, so you know what to do if you haven't already figured it out. But the manual's probably updated by now. This was 6 months ago, but
Yes.
it happens, and it's no big deal. We got it working, and that's the most
Yeah.
important thing. Tom says he's going to go over to Facebook, and he was going to try to let people know in all the Facebook threads
Oh,
that were going
great.
on what to do. So again, Tom,
I
thanks
was
so
gonna
much.
say, it's probably going to be really important on the social media side of things that
Yep.
people actually post steps to get this right, so that I mean, we're doing it in the forum. Me and the other guys who are forum moderators, we're doing it in the forum now. So we're kind of updating these things in the forum, the beta forum on the fly. It'd be really great if you guys that are discovering this as well can do the same on the social media side, so that like in the DAW mode group that Johnny Guy runs and the StudioLive Mixers group, put those things there, outline them in kind of steps that everybody can follow. Tom says, "I'll take the time to do a full post for all the groups to cover this." Tom, that is great, mate. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks,
Really
Tom.
appreciate that. I'm Scottish, so I have a certain phraseology that not everybody's going to understand. So I appreciate you taking the time out to do that, Tom. Thank you.
Yeah, that's really cool. And so yeah, and just in the couple, because I mean, what you saw me do with the faders and stuff is the first time I've ever done it. But just even playing with this, if you're curious and you don't have a StudioLive and you want to know how responsive it is and how does it feel, I got to tell you, it's pretty darn accurate, man. I mean,
It
if you take a fader and move it quickly, I mean, you could probably see my finger on the screen. I mean, moving that pretty quickly to get that to track like that. I mean, not that you
Yep.
would mix that way, but just to show you the sensitivity of it. I'll tell you what, that's pretty darn good, man. That looks. I don't feel any delay or lag from what I can see just by doing that. No, that's pretty. Pretty good, man.
it's pretty. It's down to, I think, under 3 milliseconds between fader and tracking
Yeah,
in
well
Studio One.
that's impossible to see with the eye, right? So now
Yep.
if I were to switch the user banks, okay, so here's something interesting. I was just curious how this would work. I have a 32 channel mixer, and how many tracks are in this thing? There's so channel 32 should be here, right? It sure is. It's on one of my parallel compression buses. Now if I bank over, now I got just the last 10 tracks.
Yep.
Which because that's all I have in the session. I have 42 tracks, so I had 32 and 10. So yeah, so that multiple faders at once, that works really well. That's really responsive. So if you guys see how we did that, so we come up here in the top left-hand corner. I know the camera angle is not the best, but if I
It's better than the one I was trying to get earlier, and I gave up.
you know what it
I
is?
just
I got all the. I went out and I bought all the stuff to be able to put this on the proper stands to get the angle over the top of the board. And I wasn't expecting we were going to do this in 5 seconds. I thought we were going to have some time. So,
I
so
you
then,
know,
so
I
then,
did,
so the next time we're going to be right over the top, and you guys will be able to see. And I'll set up OBS a little better, so you guys will get some better angles. And as a matter of fact, I got another USB webcam, so I could put one on the screen, one on the faders. So that'll be
yeah,
pretty
Dave,
cool.
I was trying to buy you time this morning, and then you popped up and said, "Oh, I see it's gone live now." I was just like, "Yeah, I've been trying to buy you some time, but
Yeah,
you
I
get
didn't.
it
Yeah.
set up."
Well, I didn't know I was that close to the edge. So if you just press over here in the top left hand corner of the mixer, above the user button and above the inputs button, you have the previous and the next screen, and that's what's going to bank over your tracks. As you can see, they're moving on the console. So I have 42 tracks in this session, and I have a 32 track fader board. Right. So this is going to be that's going to be the first 32 channels, and then the last 10 channels are going to be here. And if you had another 10 channels, you'd bank over. You'd bank over again. So that's
You can
really cool.
you can you can bank over, I believe, to a maximum of 128. I don't think it'll actually do any more than that.
Well, you don't need 128 tracks in a mix anyway, right? If someone sends me
Unless
something with 128 tracks,
unless you're doing like extreme sound design
yeah,
or orchestral stuff.
yep. So yeah, that works pretty good. So I like that. Now let's just check out quick. Okay, so if I'm on channel, let's go back to channel 13. I was working on that with the plugins, and if I take the pan, the encoder on the panning, yeah, that works really smooth. No lag time at all. That works really well, from what I can see. If I want to do, see, I'm not used to pushing all the buttons on the board because I haven't had a chance to use it this way. So if we wanted to, let's see, let's do the transport. I don't know how loud this is going to be, so let's turn down the master fader. Okay. Does it play? Oh, I probably got to get my.
Yeah, you may find that you may need to reset all your I/O.
Oh yeah. That may have to do that because the transport buttons on here don't work quite yet.
Well, they should work, but it might be a
Nope.
case of you just not getting audio coming through yet.
No, the playhead's not even moving.
Oh no, that's interesting.
So if I press the space bar, yeah, the space bar works. Now if I try to stop it, nope, I can't. So the transport controls, right this second don't work. But wait a minute, is there something? I don't remember in the edit screen. I may have to go through. There's probably a setting somewhere.
Yeah, because my transport control works both with my fader port, my spacebar, and on the mixer as well.
Channel 13.
But I have the baby version. I have the 16. Not that that would make a whole lot of difference, I don't think.
The other thing I noticed too is when I'm on the home screen, if I hit the selector, it changes on the you see in Studio One as I'm hitting the select button on the console, the channel
Yep.
track is lighting up green, but it doesn't change on the touch screen. Let me go out of the home screen. Okay, now when I'm okay, because I was in the home screen. If I come out of the home screen, let's if I go to channel 12. Okay, yeah, then it switches. Okay, so I was in the home screen. You have to clear out of the home screen to order to select your channels on the console, and it'll show up in the touch screen, as well as you can see my tracks changing in Studio One from one to the other.
Tom's actually reporting a couple of things here.
Okay, go ahead.
He says, I figured out why some people are not hearing playback while in DAW mode, and it is not the I/O. He says, it's on the main bus in Studio One. It's the Z icon at the very bottom of the main bus on Studio One. Look at your mixer view.
Okay, so bringing up the master fader. Again, some weird clicking sound. And I don't know if that's because we're using Skype, we're using OBS, I'm using Studio One, and I don't know what the Mac OS, if it's somehow audio.
Could possibly be.
I mean, it could be. I don't know. We got to figure all that out, right? Because we got to be able to do demonstrations and listen to it. Let me see now if I go check, let me just stop this for a second. If I go check the preferences in Studio One, it's just set up the way it was before DAW controls. So the outputs I always put on channels 34 and 35. That's how I used to do it before. So what would my outputs be? Tom, do you know? It was always on 34 and 35 was the main outputs. I guess you could put them on anything. I don't know if that matters.
Yeah, you can. You can try 37, 38.
37. That's the tape. That's tape left and right.
Tom here is saying your preferences probably are fine, but you need to switch the green Z on the main fader.
On the master fader.
On the master fader in Studio One.
You know, where is that? Oh, my eyes are getting. I gotta get another. I gotta get to the eye doctor pretty soon and update my prescription. Let's see. So where is the green Z? How come I don't see that?
It's towards the bottom. Towards the bottom, underneath the fader itself. Literally right above where it says auto off, which would be your automation. Right above there, you should have a Z. It might be,
nope.
If it's enabled, it'll be dark. If it's enabled, it'll be green.
It's not. I don't see either. There's certainly nothing there that's green. Let me look. There's the automation. I'm going to keep that off. Nope, there's no little Z.
Right. In that case, you probably don't have the low latency monitoring path engaged at all.
Okay. How do we do that, Johnny Lipsham?
This is where you need to go to your preferences. Now, it's different. It's different on a Windows PC than it is on a Mac.
Tom,
so
yes. Tom's asking if I updated Studio One. Yes, I do have the recent update. It is version. I'll show you on the start screen. It is version 3.5.4.45392, built on November 30th. Is that the right one? There is no update. I clicked on check audio updates, and it says I'm running the latest version. At least it did before. Yeah, 3.4.45392. Your version is up to date.
Okay.
Song.
All right, so let me just try and find where this is, because it's been a while since I've done it. Okay, so you need to go into what do we call it? In PC World, it's the Studio One menu, which might be your preferences menu, which should bring up your options. So you should get general locations, audio setup, external devices, and advanced in a little dialog box.
Yes, sir.
So you go to audio setup.
Yes, sir.
And in that, you should have two tabs. Underneath there, you should have audio device and processing.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to processing, you'll see that there are settings there for dropout protection.
Yes.
And so if you change the dropout protection, I don't know what it is currently for you.
Mine says medium.
Yours says medium. If you change that to high or maximum.
Okay.
And maximum. You now should see that in that dialog box, you got a couple of green Z's a little bit further down, which tells you what your round trip latency is.
Yep, the checkboxes underneath it are grayed out, but one of them is checked. It says enable low latency monitoring for all instruments. And then the one,
yeah, that's for instrument tracks, but you don't probably need to worry about that in your case. I'm just going to go back into that because I accidentally turned it off. So if you had your dropout protection set to maximum,
okay.
Let's see. The one underneath the low latency monitoring for instruments should read use native low latency monitoring instead of hardware monitoring.
Yeah, that's unchecked, and it won't let me check it. It's grayed out.
It may well be grayed out, but underneath that, you should have your monitoring latencies.
Yes, yes.
Next to those at the end, you should have at least one green Z next to audio round trip.
No, I do not.
You do not?
No, and I hit apply. I can hit OK. Let me see if the Z's pop up. No Z's popping up on my thingy.
Okay.
Let's see. Tom says there's another in December, I believe. He says there's another update. If there is, Tom, I don't know about it because it says my thing's up to date. Set to higher maximum, which I did. The Z's will then appear. No, not on mine, Tom. Not on mine.
Yeah, that's interesting. They should do.
I didn't want
You're
this.
using your StudioLive in interface mode as well as DAW mode, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Uh-huh. Right. Okay.
Let me just see
That
one thing.
might,
More information.
because I'm not. You see, I'm using a different interface. So it could well be that because you're using the StudioLive, you don't get the green Z option.
Oh,
I don't.
Tom says maybe because he's on a PC. Yeah, that could be it. It could be a PC Mac thing. Maybe with PC that's an available option. Maybe Mac it doesn't need to be. I don't know. But yeah, that doesn't explain why I don't hear any audio. Well, let me see. Let's just try something. Hold on. Okay, there's my audio. Sounds good, right? That's my mix.
Okay. Dave, what's happened to your mixing skills, man?
Those are my mixing skills. You like that?
Yes, stutter rap.
I don't know
music.
if
I
that
like
has anything to do with. Okay, let's go back to. I'm gonna to drop out protection. Let me go back to
Now,
medium. I just want to
what
see.
I'm noticing, Dave, what I'm noticing
Yep.
on the camera shot here,
Yes.
it might be that it's just bloody frozen. Okay, yeah, it was just a case of the Skype feed was frozen there for a minute.
Okay. Okay.
So
Let me try something in the outputs. I'm just curious to see in the song IO setup here. Let's just look. So I'm at 34, 35. If I went to 37, not that it should matter, but let's just try it. Let's just see what happens. I don't know if it's gonna matter. Ah, now I get no audio at all.
you get no audio at
Okay,
all.
let's see.
Okay, next option to try might be 1 and 2, but that, yeah, I don't like that as an option.
And my transports still don't work, but that's okay. That's a minor thing right now. Let's go back to preferences. Let's just check the IO and see if that does anything. Song setup. We're on the outputs. 1, 2. Apply. Now I get that. So we get some audio. We just
do,
don't.
but it is very stuttery.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's an internet. I don't think so. It never was before. So there must be something else we're missing here. Let me see on the. This would be. Do all the input? Does it matter if the inputs are on USB or analog? On the board.
Say again.
On the board, on the console. Say channel 1. The input says analog. Should it be on USB?
Yes.
Okay, let me stop this. I don't want to blow out anybody's ears. Let me try that. Select. Oh, it doesn't let me change it. It only lets it stay on analog. That's interesting.
Now that is very interesting.
That is interesting. Okay. Someone's talking about the block size. Let me just go check that out.
Yeah, that might be something to do with it, which you'd have to deal with.
I'm on the highest audio device. I'm on the highest device block size because usually when I mix, I do. But let's just lower it. Let's just see what happens. What is this release audio device in the background? It's unchecked. I don't know what that means. You know what that means?
Yeah, that's to do with in some cases, for example, if you want to listen to audio outside of Studio One, like YouTube or something else, then you need to have that. In some cases, you have to have that checked so that when you come out of Studio One, your audio device goes to whatever that source is. So if it's YouTube or Chrome or whatever, it goes to that source.
Okay, let me try to.
For some people, that's
here
for some
it goes.
people that's.
There it is. It was a device.
Bingo. Is it that simple?
This is a completely unmixed track with raw audio, so if it sounds like crap, it's because I haven't done anything to it yet. But yeah, so it was when I changed the device block size in the audio devices tab. Hope you guys can see that. I changed it to 512. Normally, I mix with it as high as it can go, but I don't know in DAW mode now if that's different. So what if I lowered it to 128? Because usually, the higher the device block size, when you're mixing using lots of plugins, you want to have a higher sample size. When you're recording, you'd want a lower one. But let's just see what happens. Let's try this. We'll try this again. Let me pull all these vocals down. And the guitars down. Let's just listen to drums, bass. Let me turn up the master because I turned it down. Okay, let me just get a couple of guitars in here just to see what happens. Do any guitar tracks going on here? Let's see, probably down here. Nope. It's going to be these two. Okay, so the sound sounds right. It's not all jarbly and disjointed and cut off. So that was the device block size, and when I lowered it from 512 to 128, it really didn't matter. So let's see how high we could go up. At 512, it sounded okay. At 1024, let's see what happens. Let's just see what happens at 1024. Same thing.
Yep.
Let's just see if we go to, what's the next size up? 2048. Let's see what that does. Doubles it again. Seems okay. Okay, that seems okay. So it's only when I went, well, let's try it now. Let's go to 4096 samples.
I think this is where the issue lies.
Because that's where it was set when we were getting the problem. I'm going to lower the master fader a little bit so I don't blow anybody's ears out. Yep.
Yeah, that's exactly what I thought.
Okay, so it's the sample.
I don't think the StudioLive yet works at that high sample rate.
Okay, well that's okay. Let's just go to 512 and that works.
So 512 on up to 20,000
to 2048 seemed to be okay on my rig. And again, I don't know how much of that is I don't know how much of that is linked to the computer and the processor. I'm not too hip. Johnny, you and Johnny God could probably speak to that.
I think it might be something to do with where the capabilities of the StudioLive are at currently.
Okay.
I think it will only go up to 2048 currently as a maximum.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so that, I mean, so it definitely works. I mean, that was the you know, that was getting us up and running, and now it'll just be a matter of playing with it, seeing, you know, it's funny because I have to start a mix. This song, this little snippet you just heard, that's the February learningtomix.com track. It's a hard rock track, which I haven't started yet, as you can see. So I'm gonna mix this song tomorrow on the StudioLive, and I'm gonna be recording it as I do it, and I will you know, we'll see how it goes, and I'll try to document or video or somehow, you know, anything that might come up that's a little funky, so we have some history. The only thing I could say right now that definitely does not work are my transport controls on the board. Let's see, and if I and the USB button, but that's not supposed to. I think Tom was saying, if I read the chat right, like if I go channel 1, if you're in DAW mode, it has to be it's going to only be in analog mode. It won't even, you can't change any of the inputs, even network or SD. It's only going to be in analog mode, okay? And all the tracks should be that way, and they are, which is nice. The other thing I want to see too, the panning we checked works really cool. Let's see, if we go to channel 1, I'm just curious to see what happens when you turn the input. Oh, I don't have any inputs set up, I don't think, because it was a mix. Let me just try something here, if you guys don't mind. So I'll just go to song setup. I don't think there's any inputs set up for it. No, there's not. So if I add, let's say, I don't know, 1, 2, 3. Okay, input 1, 2, 3. And I just hit apply. Let's see, and then hit OK, which, by the way, you can do the apply and the OK right on the touchscreen. I'm just so used to the tracker ball, but all of what I just did with the tracker ball, all can be done from the touchscreen. So now I have my inputs here, and if I want to get rid of this, So if I'm on channel 1, it lights up, and if I come up here to the coder up top, yeah, I guess you guys can see that. I turn this. Oh, do I have to turn that on? Oh, okay. Okay, see, when I turn the encoder, you can see above the, well, you can't because the window's small, but when you can change the input. So I have 1 input, if I turn it, 2 input, input 3. So you can change the inputs, obviously, right from the encoder, which is
Yep.
pretty nice. And I would imagine the same for the output. So on the encoders at the top of the mixer, up here next to the left of the touchscreen, when you're on a single channel, you have the panning, which is the second encoder over. You have the input, the output, and the auto mode, which is the automation, right?
Yes.
And then you have these other encoders that don't have anything on them currently, but that you probably can assign stuff to them, I would imagine. I'll just have to figure that
Yes,
out.
you can.
Yeah.
When you bring a plugin onto the inserts for one of those channels, when you open that particular plugin,
Oh,
then
those will be
those encoders will go to whatever is mapped to them. All native plugins will be automatically pre-mapped, but you will find that some you'll need to map yourself.
Well, we're gonna check that out right now. Now that you said that, we're gonna take the Presonus compressor and I'm gonna dump it on track 1.
There you go.
And there it is. And you're absolutely correct. So what you can't see is all the encoders up here next to the top. You can see my finger pointing on all of them. They are all the controls on the compressor. So the first one is the input. And if I turn the input, you can see the input. I don't know if you can see it because the Studio One screens, but the input on the plugin is definitely working, and it is very smooth and very responsive.
And pretty much zero latency with the plugins, you'll find.
The ratio, yep, the ratio's there. The threshold is there, which is cool. The knee is there as well. The attack and release, the mix, yeah, because you can do parallel compression if you want. And then you have your auto gain or makeup gain here if you want as well. So yes, so with a native plugin, it is all mapped already. So you can kind of reach across and do that. You know, the only thing I was thinking about, just as from a design perspective for every mixer, because all mixers are kind of designed this way, but I was thinking about this as I'm reaching way up here to touch the controllers, the encoders. Someone's got to come up with a mixer where all that control is here. But I know you're in the way of the faders. So it'd be interesting. It'd be interesting if someone, some design engineer, could come up with a mixer where if all your functionality is up here, you could see how far I got to reach. I mean, I could feel that in my shoulder, unless I brought I guess if I didn't have this clunky keyboard in front of me, and you had the console closer to you.
Yeah, I have a tray. I had exactly the same problem as you with my desk. So what I did was I got myself a cheap little tray and screwed it to the bottom of my desk.
Yep.
And so when I'm not using the keyboard, it just slides away, and actually it's not too far to reach.
And then you're kind of then I guess you're only kind of reaching maybe this far. It's not so bad. But yeah, it's just an ergonomic thing. Just thinking about that. So if you're going to use this stuff, you want to try to get the mixer as close to you as possible. Duh, right?
Yes.
So that does work. And if I just touch the touch screen, the compressor goes away. I got my UV meter up here, or my VU meter, UV meter.
I was about to say, I love the way you call it a UV meter, because it's not really measuring ultraviolet light. But,
no,
you know.
Mine is. So there it goes. So yeah, that all works pretty cool. The touch screen on this is not too bad. I remember you know, playing with it before, and it is pretty good. And then also too, you can do all your mutes and your solos up here as well. Solo it all up, and you can see all the lights on the console. If I solo it, all the other mute lights come on. So you know, those are just basic things that, of course, you would expect it to do. What I also like is in the touchscreen here, you have the inserts and the sends right next to it. So you'll also have your sends there, which are cool. You know, sending your send section, which is neat. So yeah, so I mean, so far, at least we got it to work. That was the important thing.
Yes.
Right.
I mean, that's really essentially step one, is getting it to work and getting your fingers around the faders and the basic functionality, like the encoders for just basic channel functions like panning and that kind of thing, you know, and also getting to grips with the mute, the solo and select buttons as well.
Yep.
You know, that's the best place to start, and then from there you can start going, right, well, let's start getting some plugins in and seeing how smooth they are. And then, I guess the most laborious task you might have to go through, especially if you're somebody that's got lots of third-party plugins, is mapping them to the encoders in the fat channel section. That's going to be the fun part for you folks, because you will have to map them. There is a very simple way to do it. And it involves basically using. I mean, that's one of the reasons why with the plugins you can kind of open this. I don't know if I can show it. I don't know how easily I can show it. I should say, on my screen, which you're not gonna be able to see. I don't think. Hang on.
Trying to move you to the center of the screen here. Let me. Where's my Skype? Where is it? Oh wait, well let me. I got to expand that, or you won't be. Hold on a second there.
Okay, no problem. I'll just try and get this set up. Let's see. That's a native plugin. So
there we go. Skype. So hold on a second. Let me expand your. Let me do a full screen on you here, so people can see what you're doing. We're not as well organized and all set up like Johnny Gibe is. With his 11 cameras, and he's got all kinds of funny windows, and he's got it going on. I'm not that professional yet. Okay, you're pretty much full screen. I mean, full screen enough to where people can see kind of what you're doing. So go ahead.
All right, so I've just opened up the Waves SSL E channel, and I'm doing this for the first time because I just haven't got around to doing it at all. But when you pull something like that in, the first thing that you notice is that it shows up on that particular channel on your mixer. It says SSL chan because it can't really fit the whole thing on to the insert section on your little screen, because the screen is really a little bit on the small side. But when you open the thing, what you need to do is you need to map each one of these out to your encoders, because your encoders will now be completely blank. Now, there's obviously more of these than there are encoders, and that's why you've got a page button for your encoders. So if you look underneath your coders in the fat channel section, there's a page button. So what that means is if you've got like, I don't know how many there are here, but there's definitely more than the number of encoders that you've physically got. So you have to page across in much the same way as you bank through your channels on your console.
Right.
So you have to do that, and so I'm trying to think, how do you do this? I'm trying to remember how, because I went over this I think once and then got caught up with other things.
Well, you know what we can do, because we're running about an hour. So what we'll do is, why don't we stop this, John? Because what we can do is, over the next couple of days, we can figure that out. We could do a video specifically on doing just that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And it's actually, once you start getting it, you'll get into a rhythm of doing it, and then it somehow, how it does it, I don't know. It automatically remembers all of these things. So the next time you instantiate it on the next song that you're mixing,
right,
all the mapping is there.
Okay.
But like you say, we've been running for about an hour.
Yeah. I'm sure what you and I could do is we could talk offline, have some specific topics, and as we figure them out, we could come on and we could do a live stream, because we're recording them, obviously, right? So we could do a live stream, record the video, and we can do we can say we're going to talk about these two things, show how it's done, and then we'll archive it, and then we'll do it like that. So we'll do it live so people can have questions, and then we'll also have videos, that'll be in the YouTube archives, so you guys will have all that stuff. And that'll be that. So this video primarily was, what was that? Let's see. Sorry about that. This video was primarily just to get everybody. Are you still sharing your screen, Johnny?
Sorry, I might well still be. Hang on.
Yeah, so we could bring you back in here.
Yeah.
So this video is basically just trying to get some of you users, I don't know if it's a PC, Mac, differential, but definitely, at least for my point of view, getting you Mac users that were maybe struggling a little bit up and running, and you know what to do. We talked about it earlier. Go back, if you joined this late, this will be up in the YouTube channel within 2 hours. As soon as I hang up with Johnny, I'm going to go upstairs, public it, throw it out on the YouTube channel. So within 30 minutes, you'll see the beginning of the broadcast where we talk about the problems we were having and what the problems I was having and how we resolved it. With everyone's help, especially Tom and his wife Heather, who helped us out tremendously. And then you guys can get through that, and hopefully, between those and all the stuff that Johnny you're doing, and all the stuff Johnny Geib is doing, and there's other guys creating videos in the Facebook groups, within a handful of days or so, I'm sure we'll work out a lot of the bugs. Or at least whatever bugs we do find, we'll get back to Presonus and they'll start doing updates. And I'm sure, we'll see new updates coming through to fix these issues if there are any.
Most definitely. I mean, that's the thing. We're kind of dealing now with a public beta. So, this is a bug hunt, folks. This is what this is about. So as you're uncovering bugs, this is one of those times where those of us that are doing support are not going to say no, there are no bugs. No, this is one of those times where we're going to say, tell us what it is, give us reproducible steps that we can take to reproduce whatever that is, and if we can reproduce it, then we can pass that back to the engineering guys, and they can get to work beavering away at annihilating those bugs. And hopefully, the more of us in the public beta there are, the more these things are going to get found out, and the quicker we can move through various betas until we get to a release candidate.
Yeah, exactly. And so everyone just needs to be patient, try not to get too frustrated. This is we're here. I mean, we're here. We're moving faders, and things are happening in Studio One. So we're there. Now it's tweaking, right? So the other thing I just noticed too, which may not pertain to everybody, but if you're like me and you're using the StudioLive for everything, and one of the things that we do obviously is these live streaming and Skype calls. When I'm not in DAW mode, I'm going to hit the DAW button and take myself out of DAW mode. You can see all the faders come down. Channels 1 and channel 2 on the StudioLive, which are part of the Mac OS, is where my vocals. And now you can hear me. And where Johnny's vocals is on channel 2. So I set the levels so we get the levels right. And then once you go into DAW mode, obviously those two channels are really in Studio One. So our volumes now are kind of locked.
Yes.
And if you want to make that adjustment, you just come out of DAW mode and it goes right back to, if you could probably see that, channel 1, channel 2. So I can control our microphone levels, which is pretty cool. Because I was wondering how was that going to work. Well, now I know.
Yeah, it's very straightforward being able to come out, and once you have your console talking to Studio One, it's never going to shut up. So
right.
Hopefully that's certainly the intention, that you should be able to come out of it, make any analog adjustments if you're using the console as an interface. Not everybody is. I'm not. So I don't really have that issue to deal with, but if you are, then you may find that as you're going, you're having to constantly flip between DAW mode and analog board mode. And that's by design. That's how it's meant to work.
Right. Okay, cool. So it'll be interesting to see what happens when I shut all this down, shut off the thing, and then turn it all back on. Is everything going to sync up? Don't know.
Should do.
We're going to find out. We're going to find out in a little while.
Should do. What you may need to try and remember is to engage DAW mode once you have a song open.
And does it matter if you turn? Well, I guess we don't know yet. But is there a sequence of turning on? So in other words, turn on the StudioLive, then open Studio One, the program, or open up Studio One, then turn on the StudioLive?
You need the mixer on first.
Mixer on first. Studio One. Open a song. Once you've done your do you have to go back to the UCnet every time?
No. That should now all of that now should be set. So what you do is you get the mixer fired up. Once it's completely fired up, then you open Studio One and you get a song open that you're going to be working on, and you hit DAW mode as soon as that song has loaded up.
And then you're good to go.
And then you're good.
And unless you lose internet connection, and if you do, make sure, once again, you have your Wi-Fi connection on your, if you're hardwired with a desktop computer with your Cat 5, Cat 6 cable, you got to make sure the Wi-Fi is on. If the Wi-Fi is not on, it's not going to communicate. At least it didn't for me on the Mac.
That's correct.
Okay,
Yes.
so
Then
that's
that'll be the
designed
case
that
with
way.
these.
And that is not in that manual. So make sure you pass that along, because me and Tom read through it. That piece is not there.
That has already been passed back, and
Nice.
they're already dealing with that. So that's probably one of the first things now, is kind of like we've uncovered maybe a couple of errata in the manual and a couple of omissions that we can now correct. So that's cool.
Perfect. Excellent. Okay, guys. Well, thanks so much to everyone that helped, Tom especially, and everybody that was chiming in the Facebook groups. Again, I appreciate when I said I needed help, at least 6 of you ran to my rescue all at the same time. And Johnny Gab, I didn't mean to ignore you. I know you were trying to help. I asked you for help. He communicated back, and then I got on the phone with Tom, and he, so I wasn't blowing you off there, buddy. It's just everything happened all at once, and I do appreciate you dropping your dinner and coming to help me, because I know that's what you were trying to do, trying to eat. So, anyway, so we'll stop this video now, and you guys will be seeing more videos from us over the next few days into the weekend for sure. So until the next video, enjoy your StudioLive, whatever mixers you're using with Studio One, and start working with it. We'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.